Yo, yo, yo. Let's go.
Huge breaking news that we're going to have to add here at the end of the show. We can go ahead and put this up here on the screen. Joe Kent, who is currently serving as the director of the National Counterterrorism Center, has resigned from his position effective immediately. Let me go ahead and read some of his letter, which is genuinely shocking. President Trump, after much reflection, I have decided to resign from my position as the director of National Counterterrorism Center effective today. I cannot, in good conscience, support the ongoing war in Iran. Iran posed no imminent threat to our country. It is clear we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby. I support the values and the foreign...
Surprise, surprise. He actually mentioned it. He actually said the power of the Israeli lobby and the Israeli government is the reason why we got into this war.
Policies that you campaigned on. Until June of 2025, you understood that wars in the Middle East were a trap that robbed America of the precious lives of our patriots and depleted the wealth and prosperity of our nation. Early in this administration, high-ranking Israeli officials and influential members of the American media deployed a misinformation campaign that wholly undermined your America First platform, sowed pro-war sentiments to encourage a war with Iran. The echo chamber was used to deceive you into believing that Iran posed an imminent threat to the United States and that you should strike now. There was a clear path to a swift victory. This was a lie and is the same tactic the Israelis used to draw us into the disastrous Iraq war that cost our nation the lives of thousands of our best men and women. We cannot make this mistake again. As a veteran who deployed to combat 11 times, a Gold Star husband who lost my beloved wife Shannon in a war manufactured by Israel, I cannot support sending the next generation off to fight and die in a war that serves no benefit to the American people, nor justifies the cost of American lives. I pray that you will reflect upon what we're doing in Iran, who we are doing it for. The time for bold action is now. You can reverse course and chart a new path for our nation, or you can allow us to slip forward further towards decline and chaos. You hold the cards. It was an honor to serve in your administration and to serve our great nation. Absolutely stunning news. Let's just dissect it a couple of different ways.
Let me just say, bravo. Finally, somebody with some character. Finally, somebody is willing to stand up and say this is wrong. This is not our war. We're dragged into this war by a corrupt government who's been bribed by the Israeli lobby, Israeli government, Israeli advocates and activists. And I'm not going to stand by and watch it happen. This is a veteran who's saying this, who went to war in Iraq. Obviously, you know, we had our reasons there. Weapons of mass destruction brought to Congress, that information brought to Congress by the Israelis, Benjamin Netanyahu himself. So, his wife died, I believe, in the war in Syria. So this is a man who fought for the country, who obviously he's in the government now. And he doesn't like what's happening. And I think most people would say, you know, that's probably the right thing to do, is to resign, because you don't want to be a part of what happens from here on out. It's already been long enough. You've been a part of some crazy stuff. Perfect time to get out, and hopefully a lot of people follow. Let me continue a little bit more.
One, this is the National Director of Counterterrorism, highest security clearance in the entire United States government. Iran posed no threat to the United States. Number one. Number two, Israel is the person manipulating intelligence. Israel pro-war lobby. Those are the people who convinced you in order to go into war with war with Iran. This is one of the most shocking resignations of the entire Trump administration. I think it might be the first like real big one
Yeah.
of somebody who was aligned with the America First movement. And let's consider the consequences here. They are going to try and destroy this man. I guarantee you they will try to indict him. They're going to say he breached his security clearance by sharing information. He was never a real patriot. He was somebody, he was MAGA or a snake, something like that, anti-Semite. The full stop of the pro-war machine and the U.S. government are going to destroy this man.
Disgrace.
Just watch and wait.
Absolute
and
disgrace.
Especially if he starts going on the podcast circuit and talking, do not forget, that this is somebody who deployed to combat multiple times, special operations background, Gold Star husband, doesn't matter. They're going to do everything that they possibly can. But this should be wall-to-wall news. We never even really had high-profile resignations like this under Iraq. And, I think the fact that you have a high-level security official with the top security clearance saying this is Israel's war, that they manipulated the intelligence, that you're making a huge mistake, that they pose no imminent threat to the United States, you have to ask seriously, how about how all of the lies that have been told by this White House? And I think second, what did he know to have to resign at this point? He knew no end in sight. And that's why he decided to do it now. So it is a stunning development to see right now.
Yeah, and
that's exactly what I said. He knew that this is only going to get worse from now on, and he should remove himself now before he's associated with whatever happens after this. Because then they could say, look, he resigned, he took a firm position against war, against a lobby that's influenced on our politicians, bribing our politicians, and he stepped away because we attacked Iran. Iran was no threat to our country. Apparently the negotiations were going well. Iran had agreed to 0% enrichment, and we still didn't take the deal. Like, what more was there to talk about? I said, okay, forget it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you guys are just you're negotiating in bad faith, and what else do you want them to do? The people are going to fight for their survival.
Just so people know, I don't know if you've been following this guy, Joe Kent ran for Congress as like a hardcore Trump loyalist. America First, there was a controversy where he was like affiliated with Nick Fuentes, Groyper types, and had to disavow them.
Right.
He was a Stop the Steal guy. He was like a January 6th truther. Like, that's the type of milieu that he's in. So hardcore supporter of Trump. He was a Tulsi ally, which I think is also an interesting piece of this internally, because apparently Tulsi, in the lead up to the first Iran war, the 12-day war, was, arguing against it and making her case fairly forcefully, ends up getting completely sidelined. They joke about her as DNI.
I think I already saw a tweet where Tulsi is back in the administration. She's not back in Joe Kent, which I'm shocked. I thought she'd be the next to resign right after Joe Kent, because I believe she's against the war, but apparently they convinced her not to, or maybe she's focused on her future in politics and she doesn't want to rock the boat too much. But I thought she would be next, but no, she's supporting the administration. She's not supporting or backing Joe Kent.
Standing for do not invite, gets completely sidelined. Now she's sent out to do a bunch of like election nonsense in Fulton County, Puerto Rico, whatever. She's no longer part of the Iran war deliberations. And so in any case, Joe is one of her allies internally in the administration. So to see him resign in this very critical and public fashion, it's hugely noteworthy. And Sagar, I'd be, interested to get your perspective on, the historic comparisons to Vietnam, sort of similarly timed concerns about wars in the past and how this stacks up against them. I will say.
So this is Trump's response to Joe Kent resigning and what he said in his letter of resignation.
Mr. President, your Director of National Counterterrorism, Joe Kent, he just resigned today. He said he can't support your conflict with Iran. What's your reaction to that? And did you?
Well, I read his statement. I always thought he was a nice guy, but I always thought he was weak on security, very weak on security. I didn't know
he
him
selected
well,
him, by the way.
He seemed like a pretty nice guy. But when I read his statement, I realized that
He's
it's
weak.
a good thing that he's out, because he said that Iran was not a threat. Iran was a threat. Every country realized what a threat Iran was. The question is whether or not they wanted to do something about it. And many people, many of the greatest military scholars are saying for years that presidents should have taken out Iran because they wanted a nuclear weapon. They were, if we didn't do the attack, or if I'll go a step further, if I didn't terminate the Iran nuclear deal given to us, one of the worst deals ever made by Barack Hussein Obama. Remember when they sent Boeing 757s over there, loaded with cash, hundreds of millions of dollars? You would have been very happy. This was a wonderful. They said hundreds of millions. People forget that. Does anybody remember?
Trump is doing the weave right now.
Hundreds of millions of dollars in a
He says he
Boeing
does the weaves when he's pretty
757. I
much
think
just
that
trying
two of
to
them loaded. They took
get away from the
seats
question.
out, and they put cash. And it was
He's
so
just
much
bumbling
that
right
there
now
wasn't a
about
bank
nothing.
in Virginia, Maryland, or D.C. that had any money left. They stripped them of all their money, put it into place, sent it to Iran, almost as ransom. That's not going to happen with Trump. And nobody ever did anything about it. Nobody ever said anything. Can you imagine if I did that? So they've been a threat for a long time, but they've really been a threat. If I didn't terminate Obama's horrible deal that he made, the Iran nuclear deal,
Which Israel told you to
a
do.
nuclear war 4 years ago. You would have had nuclear holocaust, and you would have had it again if we didn't bomb the site. So when somebody is working with us that says they didn't think Iran was a threat, we don't want those people, because, and there are some people, I guess I would say that, but they're not smart people or they're not savvy people. Iran was a tremendous threat. And virtually every NATO nation, and this is the thing, if they told me it wasn't a threat and therefore they don't want to help, but when they say it was a threat and it was a major threat, every one of them, I think every one of them, I don't know of one that said they're not a threat, but when they say it was a threat, but we're not going to help.
Yeah, but if they're saying it's such a threat, so why wouldn't they help? All of them are against the war. This is a war of aggression. All the European countries, pretty much. Trump has asked them to join the war with them, and they said no. They said no, because this is a war of aggression by the United States and Israel, and that they don't want to take part in it. So if they believed Iran was such a threat, why wouldn't they join in?
I think they're very foolish. You know, it's interesting. It's interesting because I could say this, that what's happening in Ukraine, we're probably in there for $400 billion. We don't spend any money anymore. They buy it from us and they pay full price. But Biden gave them between $350 and $400 billion of equipment and cash. Someday they'll have to find out about the cash. And you could say that wasn't a threat. You know, we're helping them. So we helped them and they didn't help us. And I think that's a very bad thing for NATO.
So you heard what Trump had to say. You heard what Joe Kent's letter. So of course you got the Ziobots pretty much out in full effect. They've got their marching orders to attack Joe Kent. So let me just show you a couple of these. Lindsey Graham, Mr. Christian Zionist, whatever that means. The resignation of Joe Kent as director of National Counterterrorism Center could not have come at a better time. In his statement explaining why he's resigning in protest, Mr. Kent is echoing the Democratic talking points, which are devoid of fact and evidence. Lindsey. Got his marching orders from Israel. Here we go. Here's Crazy Loomer. Notorious leaker Joe Kent just resigned from his role as director of the National Counterterrorism Center. Kent reports to Tulsi Gabbard. I have been warning you all about Joe Kent for a long time. I predict Tulsi Gabbard will resign next. Yep. She'll attack him way more. She's a lunatic. And here's the crazy Mark Levin. DOJ should open a criminal investigation to determine if Kent leaked any classified information. Buddy, You've been leaking everything to Israel. Literally. Leaking everything to Israel. Unbelievable, these people, man. Anyway, that's the show. See you next time. Peace.